Or hardest scene to film? Yeah, I think it had. I think like the hardest thing was really we had a couple of scenes when the dinosaurs attacked the moon station.
Yeah.
And it's just so many people, and it was really complicated because you had to sort of put a lot of people running, and then you have to have the CGI. You have to think about that. But it's not just that, because the other thing which made it interesting was that we had. We didn't have like professional extras in the movie. All of the extras in the movie were actually our fans who had crowdfunded the film. So they had bought a little role. Somebody bought a role to be a guy running away from a dinosaur. Somebody else bought a role to be killed by a dinosaur and stuff like that. So all of that was really and they were great. But of course, you know, as a non-professional extra, it's always a little bit more hassle. But they were actually better than the extras I've worked with in other movies, so that was really fun. It's difficult, and I like to say that if you want to go crowdfunding, you have to know what it takes, and it takes a lot. It takes a huge amount of constant updating to your fans. You have to be talking with the fans all the time. You have to be, you know, in quite close contact with them. And the other thing is you have to be really inventive. It's not an easy way to get money. Because if you just put up something on the internet and say, give me money, it's not going to work. You have to be really clever all the time. Like you have to come up with like, here's this thing. And it can be really stressful because you always launch you never know how it's going to go. It's really like in short, I kind of like crowdfunding, but also I'm not sure I'm going to do it anymore. I've done 2 films by crowdfunding, and then a lot of fans, they ask that can, you know, how can we give money to your next film? But it's not necessarily easy. So it may be that if I do it more like you know, closer and more. I think the whole idea of like Iron Sky. What I like about Iron Sky is that I would not be able to do a film like Iron Sky in America or in China. You know, this you know, Europe, and especially North Europe is the only place I can do a film like that, because everywhere else everybody is so careful about political references, about this and that, and they have so like tight like, how do you say, like a prism of what you can and what you cannot do. The only thing that's really only, you know, Finland, Nordic countries are the only place where you actually can do a film like this, and you don't have to give a shit about what anybody else is saying. And so in that way, it was all the time in my mind that I want to do this film in a way that can be done here or Northern Europe. But what the you know, the references and all that, they come as you write, as you work, as you plan things. But I always knew that I'm gonna, you know, have a piece on politicians, have a piece on historical figures, have a piece on religion, stuff like that. But like I said, you cannot do it in America, you cannot do it in China. Lynch is my number one inspiration, and not because of I like to talk about David Lynch. I think David Lynch is the one guy who inspired me all the way. That there is nothing you cannot do in a movie. If you do it well, and you know, people will fucking buy it. And I absolutely like David Lynch's approach to things, his approach to ideas. He always talks about ideas are like fish. You have to catch the fish and get that out. And you know, so I am absolutely David Lynch is just the number one important. And then of course there's a bunch of this and that, you know, Ridley Scott and whatever, and these are great people, but I always, whenever I really try to get some inspiration, I look at David Lynch movies, and I try to do my best to imitate his work in any way. When I was growing up, I was watching a friend of mine. I had a friend who was he was a disabled guy, and for some reason he had a huge collection of VHS movies. No, not him, but actually his uncle had like a huge collection of VHS movies, like horrible movies, like all these like super trash from the 60s and 70s. And me and him, we would always sneak to his home and you know, find a new, I don't know what, like the zombie film or a horror Dracula film or whatever, and we would sneak in there. We would put that film in, and we used to hide behind the couch because it was really scary shit. You know, I was a young guy. I was 8-9 years old. You know, when we started to watch this stuff, and we hide behind the couch and we watched the movie, and then when it's too hard, we went back. You know, and that was my experience with all this sort of genre. Of course, I saw the regular movies in theaters, but that was the sort of, I think, the one that brought me towards the films that I tend to make, like a little bit more like eccentric. I think for me, number one is again David Lynch, his film Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, which was a hated movie. He showed it in Cannes Film Festival in 92. It came out. It was after the release of Twin Peaks, and Twin Peaks was, of course, like a huge success. And then it took a couple of years, and he made this movie, and it was hated. Everybody hated the movie. It's one of the best movies ever made, maybe the best movie ever made. It is amazing, but it just went flying past people's mind. So that's one. And then I think the other film that really changed me was when I saw Alien for the first time. Ridley Scott Alien. I was scared. I was young, way too young to see it, and I was scared shitless. And that has stayed with me all my life. And I think when I saw the Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, that was like, I think maybe that was the final stamp. I was already making movies then, but that was the final stamp that, okay, if you can do Lord of the Rings in such a great way, with such passion, such love, there is nothing you cannot do in the movie. And I love that movie. I love all of those three movies. I love them so much. So I think those. I always say that. And I think it's important that if you want to become a filmmaker, you have to realize that filmmaking is something that you have to invest your whole self, and I mean yourself, your wife or husband, your children, your parents, the whole reputation for many years, and you never know if it's going to come out good. You never know if it's going to come out the way that you wish it. You never know if you're going to get the financing together. So in that way, choose a topic that you can live with. Choose a topic that's really, it actually talks to you in a way that even in the worst times, when you wake up and your wife is angry at you because what the fuck, are you not doing any real job? Your parents are like, guy, what are you doing? Why don't you do something relevant? Still, you can fight against all of that sort of negative energy. And I'm not saying that but I mean it's like nobody else will understand what you're doing but yourself. So have a topic that you can fight and defend, because in the end it gets out there. You have a big premiere and everybody is so proud of you. But there are the moments, the darkest moments are the ones you have to be living through, and then you have to have a topic that's worth that in the end. And you never know how the film is going to turn out. Maybe it's a film, it's a flop, whatever. It doesn't matter, as long as it's about something that you really like, want to do, and you're willing to fight. Even the worst moments are worth it if you have something that you really want to do about.